I'm not going to lie to you. It's kind of weird being here today. I'm what you might call a hybrid TEDxer. I have presented 2 TEDx talks prior to this one, and then I moved on to an organizer role, having now produced 3 TEDx events to date. Now I'm back as a speaker to explain to you how these events get put together, but more importantly, how they can save the art of public speaking. So here's the deal. Organizing a TEDx event sucks, and it's super hard, and it's a thankless job, and well, I love it. Think about it. You can log on to the internet and watch people intelligently solve the world's problems in 5 to 18 minutes. I'm not only a fan of watching public speaking, but I myself have keynoted at conferences all over the country. And most of the time I am left with nothing more than the motivational equivalent of a New Year's resolution that will fade shortly thereafter. But because these independently organized events are so special, they create lasting change. In fact, the first time I gave a TED Talk, I had a much different feeling in the pit of my stomach than my usual keynotes. Now that feeling, contrary to popular belief, that was inspiration, although my doctor insists that it was a panic attack. I gave an average talk, but because I shared my truth, my experience, and most importantly, an unskewed viewpoint of my idea, the talk resonated with people, and I felt a catharsis that I had never felt before from speaking. A few weeks later, I took the stage at an industry conference where I sold curated stories that I knew would lead the attendees to approach me for advice and ultimately lead to sales for my company. And I felt kind of dirty. My second TEDx stage the following year, it was no different. Another year older, another year wiser, yet another year farther from a time where I had the patience and desire to sell my way through another speech. And so I developed a theory about TEDx's effect on the public speaking world. And in order to test my theory, I vowed to get inside the minds of other TEDx speakers as an organizer. I hypothesized that if more speaking events focused on the importance of the theme, the quality of the talks, as opposed to the ROI, then things might change. If more speakers challenged themselves to make a difference instead of taking the easy way out and babbling about their accomplishments, then the public speaking world could return to a time of inspiration and change. And so I applied, I got licensed, and bam, I was the executive producer and organizer of my very own TEDx event. Having gone through this experience twice by now with my own TED event, and once as the co-producer of a TEDx Women event, I have seen firsthand that there is a massive difference in impact. But it's not just TED itself, it's the way a TED Talk is structured. So let's dissect the process in order to understand the X factor that has become the big difference maker. Before you even think of applying to be a TEDx organizer, get your Super Friends team together. You have to make sure that you have the most badass, loyal, smart, clever, and tolerant team in place to do this thing right. Why tolerant? Simple. If you are super passionate about this event, which you should be, your team will eventually hate you. It's science. I can't explain it. This is an intense time, but you have to make sure that you dial the intensity down once in a while. If you start hitting the "I'm so excited, I'm so scared" level of intensity of Jesse Spano from the caffeine pill addiction episode of Saved by the Bell, it's probably time to dial it down a notch. Don't get me wrong, you should be intense. You have every right to be considering that you are now tasked with putting together a panel of speakers that will collectively change the world with these talks. No pressure. Now comes theme selection. TEDx event themes are just as important for the audience as they are for the speakers. You want something that means a great deal to you as the organizer, but that will resonate and create change with both the live audience and the YouTube audience. Between you and I, you're also going to need something that's catchy and that shows your intelligence and wit. Example, what if the bad guy's dojo in the Karate Kid movies wasn't called Cobra Kai, the coolest name for a dojo ever? You think you'd be binge watching a series called Sid's Karate Palace on Netflix right now? Names are important. Themes are important. And with the theme, we get to the real magic of all TEDx talks, the content. The idea worth spreading. Every TED talk that I have ever watched has had an X factor that resonates with me, and judging by the amount of views they get, a large chunk of you too. That X factor, well, it's divine intervention of biblical proportions.
The 10 Commandments.
Once you apply as an organizer and get licensed, you'll need to download and study the entire TED Bible from their website. Pay particular attention to the 4 rules for all TED Talks. These are the big ones, which is why I call them the TED Commandments. Thou shalt not sell. Thou shalt not have a political agenda. Thou shalt not have a religious agenda. Thou shalt not do bad science. That's it. If you are to be an influencer that uses your voice for positive change in this world, you need to challenge yourself to apply these rules to what you do. And not just at TEDx events, everywhere. Let me break them down. No selling. This one is pretty self-explanatory. Do not talk about your company and what you sell. Instead, talk about how you love what you do for a living because of all the people that you get to help. Do not show the audience pictures of your brand and the swag that goes with it by inserting photos full of logos and name drops in your PowerPoint. Yes, I saw another speaker do this at my first TEDx event. Yes, it was ridiculous. No political agenda, no religious agenda. These two are important. An idea worth spreading will not succeed on this stage if it's attached to a political or religious agenda. The key word here is agenda. By its definition, it means an underlying, often ideological plan. Underlying plans within a public speaker's talk? There's another word for that. Selling. Remember, there's a time and a place for everything. This red dot that I'm standing on, it means something. It is sacred to me. Be straightforward about your idea. A subliminal message that promotes an agenda, whether it's political, religious, or otherwise, that's just not worthy of the red dot. The goal here is to activate the audience when they hear your idea. It's super easy to point out the world's problems and offer a political or religious insight on how to solve them. But is there a fair way to do that while speaking to the majority of people in the world without running into the roadblocks of differing fundamental ideologies? Speaking of bias, let's talk about no bad science. Bad science is science that is done poorly, is biased, or in which the results are cherry-picked to support a favored hypothesis. Bar none, this is, in my opinion, the most pivotal of the 4 TED Commandments. Breaking this rule is downright dangerous and irresponsible. This is a platform that is respected and has a great amount of influence on people. High school and college classes, they use TED Talks and TEDx Talks in their lessons. Speakers need to support any scientific ideas with factual, unbiased, peer-reviewed evidence that leaves no room for error, or at least no willful room for error. Organizers need to fact-check to the best of their abilities and hold themselves as accountable as the speakers do for this responsibility. Organizers all over the world, I'm speaking to you right now. TEDx or not, consider adopting the TED Commandments into your process. There is no greater joy for me than when I watch a talk that is pure and exciting and creative and, well, worth spreading. Don't let the word worth in that sentence overwhelm you. We're not talking about being worthy enough to lift Thor's mighty hammer. We're just looking for inspiration in our lives. And whether you're a public speaker or an event organizer, wouldn't it be nice to challenge ourselves to get back to a place of inspiration again? The place that most likely started this journey for most of us. Now, after I close my call for speakers and decide on my final lineup, I design a process that has a structured timeline and that allows me to get intimately involved with the speaker's writing processes on a collaborative level. Collaboration is the key to the success of my events and my talks. This talk right here had the input of no less than 6 of my colleagues and various professionals in order to put the best message on the stage that I possibly could. 2 rounds of major edits, 3 total drafts. That's it. After that, it's in the audience's hands as to whether they will receive the talk or swipe left. So as an organizer, I like to take the pressure off of the content once the final draft is done. Rehearse, memorize, rehearse some more, focus on the performance. Now, Reinvent is a whole different animal. I'm going to leave those instructions for the book. Wink. Bad George. No, seriously, there's no book. There's probably going to be a book. See what I mean? Speakers, impossible. Always promoting. Where was I? Right, event day. The logistical steps for a live event are important, but they are mostly arbitrary steps in order to fill your seats and produce a good video. What matters most is what the speakers come on stage with and how they say it. How will they influence the audience? Will the stage inspire the action of a world-saving superhero? Or will it host a Thanos-level bad science snap of the fingers that will end all existence for public speaking everywhere and completely ruin the importance of the stage forever? Am I comparing myself and other speakers and organizers to superheroes? I would never do that. Again. I would never do that again. Can we skip the next 2 slides, please? Good. Look, we are in a very strange time right now. A global pandemic, political unrest, financial crisis all over the world. It's time that the real, unbiased influencers of the world started to take their rightful places on the stage again. Red dot or not, behind the camera or in front of it, we can all play a part in making the voice of this world matter again. And that's an idea worth spreading. Thank you.